there will be many falls, but I don't think we're done with this ball game yet. I think we are still
Sure.
can we still can be in our ascent. And so just the
Yeah.
arithmetic of it, Elon,
Yeah.
you're right. If you extrapolate the existing GDP growth rate curves and linearly play them out on a compounding rate, it's exactly what you said for China in relation to the US. That is a big part of the reason why leading the country as US president, one of the core things I've prioritized is actually making GDP growth a metric that we actually care about in this country. And,
Sure.
in some ways, I'd rather measure
Well,
economic prosperity
yeah.
than some other metric that we've chosen, carbon emissions or whatever the metric of the day may be. Let's actually choose the one that better tracks the prosperity and might of our country over the next 50 years. And I think it's actually going to be more achievable than we've made it out to be.
Well, I mean, we want to make sure that the United States remains very much a meritocracy. Um, that is a function of someone's skill and hard work that results in their success, and that we do not have any sort of an entrenched, um, rich class, effectively. So this is very important, because otherwise results in sort of ossification of society. Um, so we want to remain really merit focused. We want to obviously, I think, try to attract the people from around the world who are also merit focused and wish to join the country, and we should make it much easier for them to join.
I agree with that. I
It,
actually fully agree with that.
it's
And
yeah,
that's one of the things where I think the Republican Party needs to define where we actually stand. There is an anti-legal immigration current that, you know,
which is
which
crazy.
which which I'm going to be on the debate stage in a month, and this is
Yeah,
going to be something that if anybody has any qualms with this, I think I'm going to have a real problem with that because merit-based
yeah,
immigration is one of the
super
fixes
important.
to economic growth in this country. But
Yeah,
merit is the key,
I
though.
really. In fact, I think I want to say it in a way that I think people, like the general, like people, everyone can understand, which is like imagine like you're pro, like America's a pro sports team. We want to win the championship. We want to keep winning the championship, and there's some ace players on another team, and they really want to join our team. And now we can make them fight us, or we can have them join our team and just crush.
Hmm.
And I think we should just say, if ace players want to join our team, please do. That is the way to continue success,
Exactly.
and
And
welcome them, and not have all these ridiculous
Well, and I
obstacles.
think part of the reason you have that reaction is to play your analogy. Instead, what we have is somebody who doesn't even sign up for the team just gets to show up on the field. And that's what we have
Yeah,
now, which creates a backlash from the existing team members to say we don't want any
sure.
more. When in fact, what we should be saying is we want the best ones who come and follow the process for actually training and joining the team. And that's what I think merit based legal immigration ought to be about. But, I do think that this is achievable, right? I think that if you view it, even if you play the Roman analogy, right, just to think about this in the
Yeah,
big arc of history, if you count the eastern half, it's 2,000 years. And in
yeah.
that case, here's what I think is going on is as a nation, we're not at the end of the Roman Empire. We're really just a little young, actually, going through our
Sure.
own version of adolescence, figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. And then when you view it through that lens, Elon, it kind of takes the temperature down a little bit where, yes, we're going through this identity crisis. Yes, we're going through this national self-flogging, a self-loathing, the kind that most people, including me, certainly did experience a little bit when going through adolescence. But you get to the other side of it stronger, if you actually get there, to our national adulthood. And so I'd like to think that's where we are, not in decline, but in our ascent. Maybe not even at base camp yet, on our way to the
We should
mountaintop.
definitely take that attitude. I agree. That's like totally the right attitude to have. Like I hate this. I just know this defeatist
That's
BS
right.
that they're teaching
Yeah.
kids. That needs to stop. That's why I'm saying like funders should revoke funding from schools that teach this nonsense, and a lot of it is happening. Um, so that's people donors are unaware of, and they should just go, hey, go pay attention to where your money's doing, and it's doing some very foolish things, and revoke funding. If they keep teaching, kids that America is somehow evil, which is
Well,
insane.
it's donors,
Um,
Elon. It's people, donors to schools. It's also, frankly, people who don't know this. I know you know this, but many people don't. is their own retirement accounts are causing corporate America to adopt the same
Yeah.
philosophy too, right? Voting for
Yeah. I think,
equity audits
yeah.
at a corporate board is in some ways a
Yeah.
manifestation of that same philosophy. And what we don't know is our
Yeah.
own money is being used to do it, be it taxpayer money or 401k money. And so some of this is easily
That's
solvable.
exactly what's happening. Yes, I mean, there's a fundamental governance issue that you've highlighted here, where because I think it's roughly half the stock market are passive or index funds, meaning they're just following, an index or something, um, and these will be at Fidelity, BlackRock, T. Rowe, all the normal sort of retirement
Right.
places. Um, but those votes are then outsourced to usually one of two organizations,
Mm-hmm.
Institutional Shareholder Services, who I sometimes call the ISIS. Um,
It's about
um,
it's about the right use case. I always wondered what the difference was between
corporate
ISIL and
ISIS.
ISIS. Now I know which one's ISIS. That's good. Yeah.
Yes, sometimes they behave like corporate
Yeah.
ISIS. And then there's
Yep.
Glass Lewis. Those are the two main ones. There are a few others. But effectively, when when half the stock market are outsourcing the voting decisions to what amount to a handful of activists or people who certainly have an agenda at these at Glass Lewis and ISS. You've essentially got a handful of people voting half of the public stock
And
market.
Elon, you were aware of my last company before running for president, or you Strive. I mean, this was my whole premise, right? Taking this on.
Okay.
So I started it. I mean, my bigger company that I founded is a biotech company. Got a bunch of medicines that are FDA approved, but this is a different adventure. Last August, and actually our mutual friend Peter was one of the backers of the company to help get it off the ground, but was an index fund provider actually, which created index
Okay.
funds, where the premise of the index funds was that you actually vote according to whatever maximizes value by providing
Yeah.
excellent products
Yeah.
and services, by literally not saying that you're going to divest from certain companies or invest in others. Many people play that game, but to say no, it's the same passive exposure. Oh, and then by the way, there's a separate arm of it that does proxy voting on behalf of people who don't want to be stuck
Yeah.
with the duopoly. And so I believe,
Right.
all else equal, I want to see the government stay out of this as minimally as they can to solve these problems. This should be solved through the market. People gravitated to it,
Yeah.
got off the
Well,
ground pretty quickly, but it's it's going to
yeah.
require seeing these complicated challenges, which are different than the classical threats to liberty or culture that we saw half a century ago.
Yeah, well, I think like fundamentally here, the public is being misled,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't realize they're being misled in that they've given their savings to these 401k plans and these index funds, and that's what really constitutes half the market. And they're on the assumption that that the way that those shares will be voted is in the shareholder interest that will maximize their ultimate return and have the best sort of retirement savings and that kind of thing. But actually, that is not what is occurring.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the votes are in many cases contrary to the shareholders'
Oh, they're
interests,
directly
and the public
contrary to
does.
them. So I'll give you two funny
Yes,
examples. Is
but the public doesn't know this.
It's totally
It comes as
invisible.
a huge shock to the
It's
public.
totally
Yeah,
invisible. So I mean, this has been. I've tried my best. I wrote two books in the last couple of years about it, but it's their technical subjects. And the thing I've realized is it
yeah,
is designed to be technical for a reason, and that says a lot about why we see technocratic abbreviations like ESG. It sounds boring,
yeah,
CBDC, whatever it is. It's designed to sound boring for a reason. Is we want to make it difficult for people to see the way in which their own investment accounts, say, are weaponized against their own best interests. I'm an antitrust skeptic mostly.